Because of my intelligence gathering around here in Texas, I learned about this in the mid-1990s. The CIA, every police chief, every major sheriff, the county commissioners, they first come in and assess you and admit they're there from the CIA, even low-level people. And then they find out, they've also been tracking most of these people and have files on their psychological makeup. And then they try to compromise them. And I've interviewed the San Antonio police chief on video. I've talked to the head of emergency management in Kingsville. I've interviewed the police chief of Alice, Texas. And you can tell the ones that have taken the bait and those that haven't. You know, Ali Phillip has been in the Army intelligence, 20-something years, on a police force. After that, they come in and they just said, hi, we're Delta Force, and we just want to be friends with you, and we just want you to take, well, they went to him and a whole bunch of other people, the fire chief, all of them. Here's all this money. We'll give you this money if you'll just be our friend and let us do some operations around here, some secret operations, but also some training. And then that's how they corrupt the local government. And then that's also who they find out who isn't going to work with them.
They ask you who your campaign manager was?
I don't recall if they did or not.
They probably wanted to know who the brains behind you brains.
Well, if they really got in that deep, Willie, they'd find out that we were flying by the seat of our pants.
That's why it's so hard to.
I laugh today because they all thought that we were some big piece of intricate machinery that defeated the system, and it was the opposite. We didn't know from week to week what we were truly going to do next, and we went with the flow of how the campaign went. And I laugh because I only raised $300,000.
Well, you caught a wave of also popular discontent, and people liked you.
Well, the big thing was because I didn't have to buy name recognition in Minnesota. And when and plus I had a statewide radio show that I did before, so I was able to expound my political positions all the way up until they pulled me off the air when I filed.
Without going through their normal media filter, you were able to get right to the people.
You know Al Franken?
Yeah.
He's running for senator.
But I oppose him.
Yeah.
I support Dean Barkley, who you met down here. Dean's running instead of me. I thought about running, and I got right on the verge. And in fact, I don't mind telling the story. It ended up a coin flip.
That you either were or would not.
Yeah, because I came home that day and it was 4 o'clock, and my wife and we looked at each other, and I said, well, what should I do? The filing closed at 5. I knew I had to leave at 4 to get there by 4:30 to complete it in time. And I turned to Terry, my wife, and I said, honey, what should I do? Because I constantly fight it, Willie, of the fact that if not me, then who? Mm-hmm. And I think back to our forefathers of our country and remember how they put their asses on the line. That I remember who was it, Ben Franklin said, what was his quote, if we all don't hang together, we'll
hang separate.
Hang separate, however it went. But it meant, in other words, we're all going to get hung. If we don't succeed, we're dead meat.
But that's the good part about the point of no return. You're committed.
And, and so that's the fight I went through, of what do I do at this point in my life. I'm 57, and I kept thinking, this is 6 years. That means I won't be done till I'm 63 at the soonest. And I thought, I don't even like these people. Why would I want to go hang out with them for 6 years? Why would I force myself to go? It's almost like sentencing yourself back into jail. It's like Willie, it's like violating your parole on purpose.
They asked me would have run for years after this and that, Senator Cox and all that local stuff.
You won in a minute.
And I couldn't get through the cocktail parties.
Yeah.
My health wouldn't take it.
Yeah, no, and I sat and thought, this is like being on parole where I am now with freedom and purposely violating my parole to go back into jail.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't want to go to jail, so I was so torn, and I'll never forget, my wife looked at me and she said, we've been together 33 years now. I said, yep. She said, you've always believed in fate and destiny, haven't you? And I said, yeah, pretty much. She looked at me and said, flip a coin. And it hit me, and I looked at her and I said, you're right. Let's leave it to fate and destiny. So I walked over, grabbed a quarter, I walked to the center of our floor, and I looked at my wife and I said, heads I run, tails I don't. She nodded at me, I flipped it up in the air, and it came down tails. And I looked at my wife, I said, I don't run, let's move on. And she actually broke down and looked at me and goes, you don't want to go 2 out of 3? And I said, if I do that, then it was failed to do it in the first place.
Yeah.
I said, I can't do that.
That's
I said,
neat.
we left it to fate and destiny, and fate spoke. If I was meant to have run, it would have came up heads.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, and it came up tails, and so I moved on from that point, and I've tried not to look back. That's when I called you, Alex, and said I'm not running.
Yeah.
You know, because that was what did it.